Moltres is my favorite member of the legendary bird trio, but it has always lived in the shadow of Zapdos. While Zapdos is extremely consistent and a solid choice in just about every single generation of competitive singles, Moltres has had much more of an uphill battle. Moltres is only ranked in OU in a single past generation, Gen 3, and it took quite a long time for players to realize how good Moltres was in this format. In generations 1 and 2, Moltres never quite found its footing, and from Gen 4 onwards, Moltres suffered immensely after the introduction of Stealth Rock. Moltres is ×4 weak to Rock, meaning Stealth Rock, the new most powerful and common move in competitive singles, dealt an enormous 50% damage to Moltres whenever it switched in. This absolutely gutted the viability of Moltres, and most other Pokemon with a ×4 Rock weakness, from then on. It wasn't until Gen 8 that these forgotten ×4 Rock weak Pokemon finally got a chance to overcome their greatest weakness, with the addition of the all-new item Heavy Duty Boots. This item grants a complete immunity to all hazards, meaning Moltres could finally shine once again without Stealth Rock restricting it so much. Although this wasn't enough for Moltres to earn an OU position in Gen 8, Moltres has now returned in Gen 9, where for the first time in almost 20 years, it is ranked in OU. Let's take a look at why this classic legendary bird is finally thriving in the new Gen 9 competitive singles metagame, and what it can provide to your OU team. But first, I would like to express my gratitude to all of you for helping me reach a new milestone of 40,000 subscribers. Because of you, Iron Mugulis has been prevented from committing any inhumane acts. Thank you. If not for the introduction of Stealth Rock, Fire Flying would be a pretty decent type combination. Flying type complements Fire type very well by removing a ground weakness and replacing it with an immunity. This type combination is also neutral to Ice, unlike other flying types, and it has a lot of useful resistances to types like Bug, Grass, and Steel, and even an immunity to burn effects. Fire is also a great offensive stab type. These qualities unfortunately weren't very useful in the Gen 1 and 2 competitive singles metagames. In Gen 1, Fire types don't even resist Ice yet, so Moltres is still weak to Ice Beam, one of the most common attacks in the game. In Generation 2, Moltres sees occasional use as a Fire-type wall breaker, but with poor matchups against common metagame threats, Moltres has quite an uphill battle. Gen 3 is where Moltres had a rare moment in the sun. That Fire-flying typing is really great in Gen 3. Stealth Rock does not exist yet, and Spike immunity is one of the most valuable traits you can have in this metagame. Fire-type becomes a lot better in Gen 3 with the introduction of many more Fire-weak Pokemon in the metagame, such as Skarmory, Metagross, Jirachi, and Celebi. Steel and Grass resistance are actually useful here to come in against attacks like Meteor Mash and Giga Drain. Moltres also gained an incredible new tool in Gen 3, the new move Will-O-Wisp, which directly inflicts burn on the opponent. This is one of the best moves in the game to this day, and it allowed Moltres an amazing way to punish switch-ins like Snorlax and physical rock types. Gen 3 Moltres is a great showcase of what this Pokemon can do when the metagame is not keeping it down, and unfortunately the introduction of Stealth Rock made it so that Moltres would struggle to reach these heights for a long time. Despite a rock weakness and a failure to maintain OU status, they did try to give Moltres new tools over the years in an attempt to keep it relevant, and it kind of worked. In Generation 6, Moltres received a new ability, Flame Body, which grants a 30% chance to inflict burn to any Pokemon that makes contact with Moltres. This is a fantastic ability, and this new buff did a decent job of giving Moltres a new reason to be considered on teams. Thanks to Flame Body, Moltres could punish common Pokemon like Scizor and Ferrothorn when they used their contact moves, and also directly threaten them. U-turn is a very common move in competitive singles, a pivoting attack that allows you to respond to whatever the enemy does. Flame Body makes this move a lot more dangerous to click, as you risk that 30% burn chance every time. Another new option that Moltres received in Gen 5 was Hurricane. Zapdos did not receive Hurricane until much later, giving Moltres a legitimate advantage over its longtime rival. Hurricane is an amazing move in Gen 5, thanks to the presence of permanent rain in the metagame. Hurricane will always hit in the rain, and Flying is a very threatening neutral stab type. Hurricane is an uncommon move in Gen 5, with the most popular users being Tornadus and occasionally Dragonite. Moltres has defensive advantages over these two Hurricane users, giving it some value on rain teams, even though it's a Fire type. Moltres is obviously hard to build with because of that ×4 rock weakness, and it requires a solid rapid spinner on the team for support, but Moltres was finally receiving some attention and more distinct traits. Moltres also gained the new and improved Defog in Gen 6, allowing it to remove hazards from the field. Once Heavy Duty Boots was released in Gen 8, Moltres finally had the ability to overcome its greatest weakness, and that fire flying typing could finally function the same way it did all the way back in Gen 3. Although Moltres was not used commonly enough to be ranked in OU in Gen 8, it was still a reasonably viable choice in the format thanks to this significant indirect buff. Now Generation 9 is here and Moltres has finally reached OU status once again. Although Moltres lost Defog in Gen 9, just like many other Pokemon, Fire Flying is a great defensive type combination in this format. Great Tusk is the Pokemon to beat, and Moltres has a crucial immunity to ground and a resistance to fighting. Not only do you match up very well against Gen 9's most common Pokemon, you have pretty fantastic matchups against many offensive threats, including King Gambit, Zamazenta, and Sneasler. With Flame Body on your side, you can punish all of these Pokemon and more from safely using physical attacks. They risk a 30% burn every single time they use an attack, which will totally cripple their damage output for the remainder of the game if it happens. This defensive typing along with Flame Body has never been better in an OU format. With huge moveset cuts in Gen 9, status moves are more sought after than ever, and this Pokemon's access to Will-O-Wisp is extremely valuable now. Not only are you a great defensive check to some of the most common Pokemon in the format, Moltres also has access to U-turn, allowing it to keep up the pace and respond to the enemy's actions. Your fire and flying stab attacks are very threatening in this metagame too, and sometimes Moltres can deal serious damage. Moltres also benefits quite a bit from the new mechanic Terastallization. You can become a strong defensive type like Water or Fairy in order to resist incoming super effective hits. Moltres gets a lot out of a Surprise Terror, not only gaining another opportunity for Flame Body to activate, but also enabling a big counterattack with Flamethrower or Hurricane. Moltres has always had very solid and powerful qualities that could never quite emerge to the surface due to various metagame factors keeping it down. With the crucial introduction of Heavy Duty Boots and also the accumulation of multiple buffs throughout the years, Moltres is now more powerful than it's ever been in competitive singles, even going toe-to-toe with modern Pokemon. This iconic legendary Phoenix from Gen 1 has risen from the ashes and now sits in OU alongside fellow bird Zapdos for the first time since Generation 3, almost 20 years ago. What do you think of Moltres in Gen 9? Who's your favorite returning Pokemon from Gen 1 to use in Gen 9? And what would you like me to talk about next? Let me know down below in the comments, and thank you for watching. Thank you to the patrons. Become a patron to appear on this excellent end screen, alongside your favorite Pokemon.
The money got different, cause of what I'm spending. The money got different,
oh, it's
cause of what
Magneton!
I'm spending.
Oh,
The money
KO
got
by one
different,
hit! It
cause
scattered
of what I'm
spikes!
spending. The money got different.